Metro Arts commissioned artist Walter Hood will create a public artwork commemorating the city's role in the historic civil rights movement. Witness Walls is a set of fragmented sculptural walls with etched designs utilizing a graphic concrete technology. Walking among the walls places visitors in the middle of historic moments represented by photos from the collection of the Nashville Public Library's Civil Rights Collection. The artwork location in Public Square Park on the west side of the Metro Nashville Courthouse is steps away from the historic April 19, 1960 student-led protest that led then-Mayor Ben West to disavow segregation in Nashville's lunch counters. The artwork will be installed in 2015.
Well, welcome everyone this afternoon. This is a tremendous crowd, and our Executive Director of the Arts Commission, Ms. Jen, I know that she is just overly elated about the turnout today for this very, very important project to meet a very, very important man who's going to make a significant impact in our city. I'm Council Lady Karen Johnson, and I am welcoming all of you on behalf of the Minority Caucus. And I have my fellow council colleagues here, Councilman Fabian Begney, can you raise your hand? And Councilman Frank Harrison. Are there any other councilmen here? Okay, are there any other elected officials here? Judge Dinkins? Judge Dinkins? Yes. Yes, and our new judge, Allegra Walker. And Chancellor Russell Perkins. Thank you all for being here. Thank you. This is very symbolic of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. This art project represents the struggle. I want to thank you all for coming out and helping to be a part of it. Those who blazed the path for what we enjoy today. There are some who are among us today that I also want to recognize. Ms. Gloria McKissick, Kwame Lillard, and Mr. Matthew Walker Jr. Are you all here? Okay, this is Ms. Gloria McKissick, everyone. This is Mr. Kwame Lillard, and where's Mr. Matthew?
King Holland.
He stepped outside.
Okay, well, you all please make sure to get to know them. They are
King Holland.
Oh, and Mr. King Hollins. Lord, Mr. King. We were just talking. But these people blazed the way. And Miss Carrie Gentry. Oh my gosh. You know, a true pioneer, civil rights pioneer in our city. So we have a lot of very important people among us. Chair Paula Roberts and members of the commission have been incredibly supportive of this very important civil rights project that is going to basically pave the way to set Nashville on the map, nationally as well as internationally. So your presence today is historic. This will become part of the record. And I just want to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your schedules to come and meet Mr. Walter Hood. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Jen Cole and I have the great fortune to be the Executive Director of Metro Arts. I want to echo the deep thanks to all of the veterans here and the children of the veterans who actually have come out and continue to support and advocate for this project. It is one the city needs to do and should do, and we're really excited that Walter Hood is the artist who's going to lead us in that direction. I want to thank my commission. I think almost my entire commission is here. Raise your hand if you are on the Metro Arts Commission. Hardest working commission in the city, I might say. Who come out and really support this, and I think in particular Don Hardin and Jane Alvis, who are on the Public Art Committee, Don Hardin, who are the permanent members of the commission who serve on the Public Art Committee, who's really stewarded this project in all of its iterations forward. And I also wanted to acknowledge, in addition to Minority Caucus that has really sort of been our partner in moving this forward. We actually have two former council members who are here, Mr. Lillard and Ms. Betty Nixon, who I think represent a real conversation about our long history as a city. What I'm really excited about tonight is that we have folks who were not alive during the civil rights era, folks who were alive, and everybody in between. And I think that's what this piece represents for the city, which is capturing our history and then capturing the important conversations about that history that need to move forward and challenge our future. And I always say that the best art is really about a conversation. Sometimes it's not a fun conversation. Sometimes it's about a lot of truth-telling. Sometimes it's about misunderstanding. And I think that this piece can move us forward in a lot of directions, and I'm really excited about that. Tonight's meeting is really about a conversation with Walter. Our board chair, Paula Roberts, is going to moderate that. We've had questions that have been submitted via online and other portals about both the piece and Walter's vision, and then we'll actually move into some Q&A as well. So I'm going to turn it over now to Paula Roberts, the board chair of Metro Arts. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Before I introduce our esteemed artist, Mr. Walter Hood, I want to take some time to talk about the photos that you see before you. Witness Walls. Witness Walls is a set of fragmented sculptural walls inspired by the classical sculpted friezes commemorating heroic and mythical events in antiquity. As visitors walk through Witness Walls, they will encounter numerous images etched into concave and convex walls by graphic concrete technology. The preliminary design also includes 3 small reflective fountains and the use of audio, possibly music reflective of the time. Walter Hood's design for Witness Walls utilizes iconic photos of the civil rights movement in Nashville to honor the events and the people who made history here and created the blueprint for nonviolent protests around the country. The installation will be located on the west side of the historic Metro Nashville Courthouse, just steps away from the historic April 19, 1960 student-led protest that then Mayor Ben West led Mr. Mayor Ben West to disavow segregation of Nashville's lunch counters. The artwork is expected to be installed in 2015. So now let me introduce our artist, Mr. Walter Hood. Walter Hood is a native of Charlotte, North Carolina. He received his bachelor's degree in landscape architecture from North Carolina A&T State University before receiving both a Master's of Architecture and a Master's of Landscape Architecture from the University of California at Berkeley. He also earned a Master of Fine Arts from the School of Art Institute of Chicago in Studio Arts and Sculpture. Currently, Mr. Hood lives in Oakland, California, and is a professor at the University of California at Berkeley. He served there as their chair of the Department of Landscape Architect and Environmental Design from 1998 to 2002. Since then, his studio practice, Hood Design, has been engaged in environmental design, urban design, art installation, and research commissions. So please welcome our artist, Mr. Walter Hood. I'm going to pretend you can all hear me. No, you can't. Okay.
You can speak it.
Can we share?
We can share.
Okay.
You can take it off too.
Okay.
Take it off.
Okay. So one of the first questions that we received online, Mr. Hood, was that you mentioned in your design that it is inspired by classical sculptural friezes found throughout antiquity. Why is this particular symbol an important design of civil rights?
That's a good question. First of all, I'd like to just say thanks everybody for coming out, and it's a pleasure to be in Nashville. I've had a long day filled with talking to all of you guys, and it's been a pleasure. To answer the question, right before we started working on this project, I had the opportunity to be in Rome, and I was viewing a classical mausoleum for the Emperor Augustus, and I was taken by how things are still there, right? I mean, it's carved in marble, and it told the story of this great feat in North Africa. And it made me wonder about, when looking at the project, why don't we make commemorative pieces that have that kind of power anymore? Why does it have to be a plaque somewhere? Why does it have to be a timeline? I mean, can we imagine our heroes in just different ways? And I do think the people who participated in the civil rights movement, there are heroes of the day, and that we should commemorate them in powerful ways. And we can't say everything, but what we say should be powerful. So that's my inspiration.
Okay. So you mentioned, I'll let you keep that. You mentioned that you've been meeting with everyone all day.
Everyone.
Everyone. So can you talk a little bit about that process and then how it has maybe added, if anything, to your concept of the work?
Well, one of the things we value, and I say my studio because Dasha is back there and I have people working with me in my studio, you know, it's great to come into a community, have an idea about a project, but you don't really know about those communities until you spend time there. And there is this local knowledge here that we are always open to making our project have that magic, that power. And we've met today with historians, we've met with people, musicologists, DJs, we've met with veterans of the civil rights movement. And one thing after meeting with these groups, there's just a lot of synergy, a lot of overlap, a lot of thinking in the same way, but there were also some really, really fantastic ideas that people presented to us. And there were also some issues that people had with the piece. And all of that is just, that's feedback. That's part of a democracy, and we welcome that. Because at the end of the day, we have to make a piece that we feel is going to represent those voices. And I just really appreciate everybody being very frank today and being very open, but also giving of their time. And this is going to be a really, really tough project. It's a very tough project. Like any project, you'd like to have the world in front of you as far as how you make it. It's a public art project. You know, it's not, you know, money's not falling from the heavens on this. And we want a lot of things, and that's why we want to be very clear and very strong about the ideas that we do put out there. And so, again, I really thank everyone for coming out and giving us, you know, their time.
You just touched on public art. How have you worked with public art in the past, and then how is that also impacting your decision with this piece?
Well, we probably have done about a dozen commissions over the years, and public art, you know, as one of my clients have said that, you know, we really like hard projects, but for me, the public art, you know, venue is a way for us to be very clear about an idea without having to go through the kind of the bureaucratic nightmare that might exist through another kind of way. But it also allows us to do something very fast. And public art, you know, the commissions, they happen really fast and they get done, and you see them around the city. And so that's one of the positives I see out of this. But it's also being made through public art suggests that it's public, that it's for everyone. It's not for one group of people, but it's for all the citizens. And that's something that we really value in our studio. We work in the public realm a lot.
Well, you're making my job very easy because every answer kind of transitions right into the next question. So talk about the piece and talk about how a visitor will move through the witness walls.
There's still a quote. In 2046, 2046, someone will be able to walk through the series of walls.
2046?
Yes. His grandson.
Yeah, I was like, wait, whoa, okay.
No, this is our goal.
This. Okay,
this is our goal.
Okay.
This is our goal that maybe in 20 plus years,
Okay, thank you.
some young lady will walk through this space and they will see a myriad of images. They will feel textures, but they will feel the spirit that something really profound happened in this place. And they will be moved through image and through sound in a way that they haven't been moved. That's my goal for this project. And we think that we have at our disposal, and we're hoping, we're very optimistic that some of the images that we're able to put on these walls can take you someplace. Right? And I think the young lady here also, posited the idea of how music can stir the soul and how these images, and again, we can't say everything, but the things we want to say them in a way that forces people to be here. And that will be my goals for the project.
So in the images, we know that through the civil rights movement, especially during the 60s, that there was, marching and sit-ins was a compelling part of that. So how does that factor in, or does it?
Well, at our presentation, we presented our idea as dualistic in that we were interested in portraying marching and sitting. Just this sort of notion of sitting and taking up space and moving in mass. And that was the concept. So in one direction, you would have images that were about movement. In another direction, there would be images about sitting. Since then, we think we're going to have writing. We might even have some other activities where people filled up space. And that's kind of the concept of which is going to allow us to create what we're trying to do is triple exposures. So instead of just having an image, the way we're conceptualizing this wall, these series of walls, is from a distance, you'll see an image. As you move closer, that image will disappear because it's out of resolution. And you will find another resolution. And then by the time you get up to it, there's a fine resolution. And that fine resolution will be within the larger rough resolution. And in a way, we're trying to explore concrete. That concrete has this stuff inside, and you want to touch it. And from a distance, you might see something. It might look like an apparition. But when you get up close to it, you'll find that they're all there together, all of these images. And having this triad, writing, sitting, walking, just beginning to think about that, it might give us a way to think about the resolution. And we're a visual culture, and hopefully, people who are even visually impaired will have a way of understanding it through touch. That it's not just about what you see, but it's also about what you feel. But that's the goal.
What about the reflective ponds what's that imagery?
I didn't know it until today. It's really about drinking fountains. No, but we had always thought about this small scale piece of water, and we're talking in one of the groups today, and they were talking about drinking fountains and how important that as an element was. And as I thought about it, just having the water at that scale, at the scale of the person, it was just important. But in the design, we were wanting to have water, which is part of the environment. But I think now that we've talked to people, there's another gestalt that might come out of it. How we make it might, again, trigger something to people. And again, all we're trying to do is trigger each individual having a different experience.
So oftentimes we look at public art, and I want you to talk more about witness walls, but I think it's also, as you mentioned, Kwame's grandson in 20 years, coming in, a lot of times people see art as for other people, for those folks. It's not me. So how do you envision bringing in this is not really for you, this is also for the Arts Commission in general, but how do you envision bringing in other people, or how have you done that in other communities where you spoke to the larger community and not just a small subset?
Well, I think it's really tough to do, but again, the thing that we try to do is to not do everything and leave some space. Right? I was just reading Miles Davis's autobiography, and I saw you talk about space. Right? But if you just leave space, and the space is for when people come in that they can find something, and we don't have to say everything. And we did a piece at University of Virginia. It's called The Shadow Catcher, and it was to commemorate an African American free slave who was the first to own land in Charlottesville. And I was taken by something I had read years ago, Flash of the Spirit when you die, your spirit needs a ride to heaven, and when there's a shadow and a reflection, the spirit goes. And so we made this, what we call a shadow catcher. And it's basically the frame of her house. But all you do is when you come there, you look down, you look up, you look down, and you look up. You look down, and you look up. And each person finds something different in that experience. Because it's about your body, it's about you interpreting, and we have pedagogical displays, but people are curious about, well, what is that shiny thing up in the sky? And then the sun comes out and there's a shadow. and then the shiny thing. And so just the duality, and again, we're trying to do the same thing through resolution and the kind of visual landscape that people are not quite sure what they're looking at, but being able to find something. And maybe the music might be a way to be that carrier that cuts across lines. We talked about that.
Well, I don't want to hoard his time, so are there any questions from the audience?
I wonder
Yes,
what
ma'am.
are the negatives you heard today? We as a commission haven't seen any negatives, so I wondered when you were talking with people today, you said some people had questions about.
Oh, no, I mean, I think, you know, like with any design project, some people like everything, some people like a little bit of it, and some people like a little bit more of it. But I mean, there was some talk around images, you know, making sure that, you know, our images are, that we throw a wide net, right? And one of the things that, you know, I'm very, I feel strongly about to not keep repeating the same sentence over and over and over again. You know, I walked in here and saw some displays here. You know, I saw some in the library. We don't want to repeat that because, again, it's already been said, or it already exists. And so I think that's a really good thing to not, you know, repeat, but find something. I wouldn't say new, but find something that's dormant, something that's latent out there, and all we have to do is just bring it forward. I think the other thing is, you know, the inclusionary, just to really think about, you know, that Nashville was more than just sitting and marching. That it was a lot of other things, economic opportunity, all of these other things. And so I say negative, but it was a good negative.
Informative.
Informative, thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I actually have two questions. One is, in order to affect this being able to wander through and experience, how much area are we talking about covering? And the second is, since these seem to be fairly significant monoliths, are you going to have to educate fabricator in this area in order to be able to work with you?
Yeah. Well, one of the things we're going to be doing is doing a lot of the fabrication at my studio, and we'll be bringing the panels. We started out thinking this would be very monolithic, but we'll be steel frames holding up panels. And so we'll have the contractors here doing basically the structural work, and we'll basically clad it, which will also help for the long-term maintenance of the piece. Yes.
Did you answer both
Did I
those?
answer both? What was the other?
Area.
Oh, the area is very small. Yes, it's very small, which is good. Small, what is it, like 50 by?
What's the actual dimensions?
50 by 50?
30 by 40.
30 by 40?
It's this, if you know where the location is, it is on, and make sure I'm get this
So
right.
it's on James Robertson and Third. There's an obelisk there that will be moved, but you have to remember the entire courthouse is a green roof. So there are structural restrictions on what we can move and where we can put it and where. And so we can have, you know, the Parks Department said structurally we can have this space in the way. So Walter is filling the space in a really great
It's a space that's empty right now, and if you walk up the stairs, I think there's 4 benches. 1, 2, 3, 8 trees, and that's about it. And we're taking the area where the benches are, which is the paved area. So you'll have to, if you're walking through there, you'll have to walk through it. So it's not a space that's on the side. We intentionally put it there so people walk through it. At the end of Charlotte, you'll actually see it. And it's great that Charlotte is elevated because you'll actually look down the hill and see something. And so we think that that's going to be powerful. And again, economically and all, it's good that it's small, but it's also good that we can create an experience, a space, where you're going to have to deal with it, right? You're going to come and you're going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to deal with it.
Speaking of in your face, you want to go, what's your question? Yeah.
I want to say thank you far in advance of the finished product, Mr. Hood, for allowing me, and I'm sure the others, to have a look into your mind today.
Oh, thank you.
Your deep. And I have no doubts that the Creator will allow you to create something that will touch everybody from every walk of life. This was divinely appointed to happen.
Thank you.
So I want to thank
Very
you.
kind. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you also. I'm amazed at
the scope of what you're going to do, and I love the way that you're incorporating it with heart and trust from the community. You are going to be gathering and probably already have all kinds of information. I feel like, I was raised in Wisconsin, I'm 51 years old. I have a lot still to learn, and every time I talk with someone who's been involved in the civil rights movement, I learn astounding amounts, especially from their personal experiences. Is there going to be a repository for all the information that you're gaining in so that you can share that information with the rest of us? Not necessarily in the artwork, but in an archive somewhere that we can access?
Well, I'm hoping that the library will take this on with us, because we've been, using that place as a no better word, staging area. But I think you have the infrastructure, right, set up for that repository to take place. And we'll also think about having other places. If you go and experience witness walls, when you go to the other place, there will be something that you might not have known about what you just experienced. Like, at just talking to people, there's a lot of, how can I say it, anonymity, right, to a lot of, who participated. And I think one of the things we have the opportunity to do is to bring those names forward, to bring that anonymity, maybe not on the site, but through a second layer of research. If we have images of someone that people don't notice, that you can go somewhere and you can actually see what the reliefs, who's on the friezes, who's on the reliefs, which might add just another layer of education about the movement. Because we have this ability in this country, possibly in the world, that if something happens, we have to make it very simple, right? And so that it gets out there, but it's really complex. And if you're interested to know the complexity, hopefully the repository could offer that. Yes, ma'am.
I would answer it two other ways, Brenda. I would say that we are launching a mobile site, Metro Arts, later this fall, that will have the entire public art collection, and will also enable, so from your phone you'll be able to access audio and video from the artist about each piece, which will add to the interpretive of every piece in the collection, specifically this one. So it'll allow us to link to the library, link to their oral history project, so that when you walk through the piece, you will have access, if you want it, to a lot of other information. The second is that we're seeking funding to do some curricular units with Metro school teachers that would be in conjunction with this project and would be available to every school teacher in the city at no cost. So we're seeking that funding now. And it's, the education and the community framework around this project. The work will stand on its own artistically, but we would like to, there's a lot of more innovative ways, rather than long panels of reading, that we can actually make this interactive, and we want to use mobile technology in education to parallel work.
Any other questions? Yes?
I have a comment. I'd just like to compliment the Public Arts Committee on the Arts Commission for finding you, first of all, Mr. Hood, and then you bringing this concept in. Serving on the commission, I believe my legacy for the years that I served will be this piece of historic public art.
Any other questions? Well, I think we still have time for a few more. Okay, I got the, all right, sign. Okay. Sometimes age can be a factor, especially when you didn't go through the experience. And I know that sometimes people feel like, well, civil rights only happened during one period of time. So I guess it's a two-part question. One, how did you overcome age? Take it you right there. You look really, really good.
Yeah, well, they do, but I know their story, too. And I'm doing the math, I don't see how it could have happened.
And that's question one. And then two, well, I'll let you answer that one first.
I'm not from the Deep South, but I'm from the South. As a young child, I knew racism. I saw the struggle that my parents had around race. I spent summers in Tobacco Road, in the country, as we used to say it, and I was integrated into public school in one of the worst decades in my state. And I've had people spit at me. I've had to have guards take me to school, and this is like, we're talking 70s, we're not talking 50s, 60s, but, and I've also been on the other side of the struggle, the opportunities. I'm a professor at Cal, UC Berkeley, and the reason why I'm at UC Berkeley as a faculty member is because of what happened here. I don't think people can talk about affirmative action or opportunities without thinking about the struggle that a lot of people, put themselves in for my generation and the generations to come. I don't take that lightly. I do think, working on projects like this is not our first commemorative project. I do think those experiences shape a view. They give you a kind of an empathy. They allow you to feel like you do have something to say. And I think a lot of people feel like they don't have something to say if they don't have the experience. But experiences are wide, and they are, there's similarities, between some of the experiences. And so I feel like I have something to say on this matter. And so I think in most the work that we do, I won't take a job unless I feel like I have something to say.
Well, we appreciate that.
Could you describe the Greensboro Woolworth Museum? Not we're saying this is not the project we want, but just in comparison scale. We're starting here, but
yeah.
Greensboro
is very different in that they actually have the building, where the actual action happened. So there is this zeitgeist moment of being there at the Woolworth, which is like the street is there, the alley is there, and just being there. I took my students there actually because I'm working with A&T students now, and the thing that blew me away that I didn't know about Woolworth was that the lunch counter was in the back. Right? Because you see all these images, and what was really wonderful, you have to make your way through, and there's the lunch counter in the back with all the signs of 10-cent sodas and all of that. And that was the most powerful to me, that spatially. That you have this idea that there was this picture window and you can look in and see these kids in there. No, they're in the back. And that was a powerful thing spatially. I think the similarities is something happened on this corner. I think, again, being able to say something happened here and that people once marched here. And I think that's the similarity between the two. You cannot discount, right, the place. And when you go to the place now, it's almost like it's there. You just need to scratch and bring it out. And those would be the similarities, but really different projects. That's a multi-million-dollar investment there in Greensboro. This is just the beginning for you guys, and maybe that building, the backdrop, it might carry some significance in the future for how you begin to frame the story.
Well, yes.
On the public square, there is a seal on the building in regards to the civil rights movement, where the marchers went there, and others, and made that historical question asking about racism in Nashville. Will you be connecting your art, the witness wall, with that one, even though it's only one reference? Is there any way you're going to incorporate the reference to that as well?
We might. I mean, we were inspired by the one piece across the way, the photographic relief that shows the marching in real time. So there is an opportunity, and someone spoke about your grandfather's building, the McKissick building down the street, one of the first black architects, and that maybe from these places off-site, we can do something with the resolution of image. And so it might relate to where you are looking at the site where what is that? And then you get there, it's like, what happened to it, right? But that notion that we have these places that are not on the space, which goes back to sight, right? That we might be able to sort of make connections, not in a how can I say, in a metaphysical way, but in a real literal way.
So sight and space. Yeah. Well, kind of this will be my last question for you. How will this piece inspire you going forward?
Oh, it's already inspired me. We're doing a piece in Norfolk, so I have to show them this now to say, build my piece in Norfolk.
But this is one of a kind, right?
This is one of a kind, yes. Piece in Norfolk is very different, very different. No, again, we're very interested. I never thought I would be doing figurative work. You know, and I think of this as, when I say figurative, I mean, you look at it and you see an image. And I think it's, I think I'm maturing as an artist, that there's not one way to make art. You know, you make art through what you're inspired by. And this project has really inspired me to this point. This notion that you can take a fallow space and just do something very simple and charge it in the minds of the people who sort of move through. And that's what we're looking forward to. And it's not a multi-million-dollar project. That's the other thing that inspires us. That, you know, a lot of public work that we do, there's not always a lot of funding to do what you want to do. But we have to learn that beauty can exist on a dollar. You know, you just have to know how to spend that dollar, right? And so we try to look at everything as just being an opportunity to make something beautiful. So.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for your time with us this afternoon, and we greatly appreciate it.
I want to, before you all leave, take a second to thank my staff. Ann Leslie Owens is our project manager, and I can't imagine a better project manager with a background in public history and a deep, deep love for this period of time and for the people who make it that. And she works really, really tirelessly to do that. And Caroline Vincent, who's homesick, she's worked so hard. And I would just really like to thank my staff, if you don't mind. The other thing I'd say is this is a community project and will always continue to be, but there has been one partner who from the very beginning has been just sort of a rock and kind of a co-partner in this, and that's Andrea Blackman from the Nashville Public Library, who is a rock star. And I do think that this is, you know, Metro Arts has been blessed, particularly in the last 12 months, with these projects that just keep on giving. The project we're doing at Edmondson Park with Thornton Dial and Lonnie Holly, these two artists who are just incredible, and working with Walter, it teaches my staff how to do this work every day and continues to redefine that community is the core of everything that we do, and that public art is just an expression of that. And so I want to thank all of you for making this possible. Sometimes the best projects are the ones that push you the most, and this one does and continues to do, and in a fantastic and wonderful way for us and for the city. And so thank you all so much, and thank Walter for being our guide along that way. I just really appreciate each of you. This will be on Metro 3, and so and we are continuing, for those of you who have friends or partners or loved ones that can't be here, we are continuing to take input for Walter's project through the end of the month at our website. Pictures, notes, archives, stream of consciousness emails. We will send them all to he and Dasha and everybody else in the studio and continue to collect that. So please push this out. Tell your friends. The more people who participate, the stronger this piece will really be for us and for the community. So thank you.